Thank you, Fern. And I'd like to just thank Fern and Julie for inviting me here today to talk about the NDIS with everyone. So before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we're meeting today, pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And also, for me, it's really important to acknowledge the people who support and work with people with disabilities. Without carers and families, we actually have a significant gap in services. So we're really acknowledging what families and carers do for people with disabilities as well. So today we're going to go through a few different areas and give you some general information about the NDIS. And I'll also at the end there'll be some contact details. It is the New South Wales team details. However, I will at the end of Tuesday when I'm back at work, because it's a public holiday, I'll forward through to Julie and Fern the contact email for each of our states' community mainstream engagement team. So if you aren't from New South Wales, you will have an email address that you'll be able to contact and get some support from. So as I'm sure you're all aware, the NDIS rolled out in 2013 after the completion of the Productivity Commission review, looking at a consistent approach for disability supports across the country. It was identified as a component of that review that there was very varying supports for people with disabilities in each state and territory. So the NDIS was established and legislation developed to ensure a consistent approach across each state and territory of New South Wales. Australia, sorry. So New South Wales now is actually fully rolled into the scheme. So it's been a progression of transition into the NDIS. And at the moment, New South Wales and South Australia have fully transitioned in under the bilateral agreements with those states. We are still working with transition with the other states and territories. Our goal is that by July 1st of July 2020, the scheme should be fully transitioned in. However, we do identify there are some competing demands and challenges in some of the other states, and our goal is to meet that target. However, the states have also committed to maintain services until we get everyone transitioned into the scheme. So the scheme is a little bit different. So that's the New South Wales data as of the 30th of June. And what we're looking at there is so far there's 298,000 participants across the country that have transitioned in. Of those, 104,000 are New South Wales participants, and within the New South Wales cohort, there's approximately 5,000 new participants that are ECI children. So it's looking at a significant number of early intervention supports for children with disabilities. Across the country, we're looking at around 11,500 children receiving early childhood, early intervention supports. So that's really encouraging. For me, the important factor is that 99,000 of those participants across the country have never ever received any form of disability support funding from their state and territory previously. So for me, that's really important. That's really around the goal of the scheme, ensuring that we're here to support people with disabilities and that the supports are in the right area for the right people. So a big question is always around eligibility to the NDIS. So eligibility to the NDIS really talks around we need a permanent disability and significant impacts with that disability to access your ordinary life. You need to be aged between 0 and 64 and an Australian resident. So, and it says there you need to be in a part of Australia where the NDIS is now available. So New South Wales, like I said, are fully transitioned in. So there's no issue around gaining access to the scheme. However, in the other states where we have an agreed transition process, particular areas will be transitioning in. So if you haven't received supports from your state or territory and you're a new participant to the scheme, there may be a delay in that access process until we've completed the agreed transition with the state government. That has been a bit of an issue for some people in New South Wales through our transition period, but now having been fully transitioned, it shouldn't be an issue at all. So there's two components with access. So first of all, I'm looking at scenario 1, which is depending on your age, if you're set between 7 and 64, and who can support you and how access actually works. So for someone who's in that category, they typically can receive some assistance from the local area coordinators in your area to gain the information around an access request form, a discussion around the eligibility of your disability, and around what evidence you'll be required to supply to actually meet the eligibility criteria for the agency. So on the other hand, if you're not sure of who your LAC is, you can always call the 1-800 number. I think it's button 1 or 2 you press for access, and they will be able to commence that access process. Take down all your details, age, residence, confirm that you are an Australian citizen. If you have a Centrelink reference number, they typically do ask for that and ask for permission to check their database. That's the only connection we have with the Centrelink database, is to verify your address and age and residency. There's no other connection at all, and we do need your permission to be able to do that. So once that has actually occurred, you will then receive a document that's called an evidence of disability form, which is actually section F of an access request form. So they're two forms that do the same thing, but they're just a little bit different, because an access request form will have all your personal details in there. It will also have that section around your customer reference number as well for data checking. So depending on how you do it, that you'll just get a different form. The evidence of disability and the functional impact, so section F of the ARF is the most important component of the access request, because we really need to understand what your functional impact is on your daily life. So it's set out in 6 life domains, and your supporting therapist, or it could be your doctor who's supporting you with that, needs to describe what level of support you require in each of those life domains. So once you've completed that form, the LAC can either submit that to the agency. You can actually take it into an office and have it submitted to an agency via the office, or you can actually email it in to the address on the access form, which is nationalaccessteam@ndis.gov.au, and then it will be processed. So scenario 2 is really looking at the children in the 0 to 6 age group. And so what the agency has done is, because in our early trial and rollout, we actually had identified that the level of children or families seeking assistance under the NDIS in that cohort had significantly reduced compared to previous state data. So what we then did was developed a trial site out in Nepean Balloon Mountains, where we worked closely with the local early childhood education specialists in that area, and developed an ECEI approach. So that's the early childhood early intervention approach, in which that families actually will have contact with our early childhood early intervention partner. They will then be able to assist them through that full access process. They will also be able to assist them to start with some interim supports. A child in that category of 0 to 6 does not need a diagnosis of disability. It could just well be a developmental delay. So the focus for the agency is to work very closely with the ECI partners and families with those children, because what we would like to see is the reduction of ongoing disability and developmental delay. So the evidence-based research demonstrates that children who have intervention earlier actually result in better outcomes. So that's why the agency has partnered with some of our early childhood, early intervention specialists in each community to deliver that service to our participants in that cohort.
So who are they? Who are those NDIS?
So,
I mean, I'm a paediatrician.
Yep.
I'm not sure
who they are. So I can tell you for New South Wales, so for New South Wales, that depending on the area in which a person lives, we have Life Start, we have Each, we have Northcott, we have Interreach, as our ECI partners in New South Wales. So the best way to find out is actually on our website. You can actually go in and find a local area coordinator or an ECI partner. You put in a postcode of where you live, and then that will bring up all of the offices and available to you, whether it be an NDIA office, it will bring up a local area coordinator, and it will also bring up an ECI partner. So, yeah, which is really good. And that's really the first point of call for families with children in that cohort, the 0 to 6. So this is around about who helps with the rollout of the NDIS across the country. So really about building community awareness and knowledge of the scheme is around the responsibility of our partners and of the agency. So the community and mainstream engagement team are here to support the education and understanding of the NDIS across each state and territory across Australia. So we do that also with our partners as well, because like I said, we're a very large country with some very remote and diverse areas, and utilising some experts in each state and territory with our partners to assist with that. So once access has been met and people understand the scheme, there's the planning component. So planning could be completed by, if you are a child in the 0 to 6 cohort, it will be undertaken by our ECI partner. If you are 7 to 64, it potentially will be undertaken by our local area coordinators. And then we have the agency planners who may undertake some planning responsibilities as well. So, however, the number of participants and the size of the agency is quite small. So to be able to deliver effectively, the agency has had to utilise experts in local areas, so our partners, to assist in delivering the scheme for us. So, and then once you do have a plan and it's looking at utilising your plan, again, depending on what has been incorporated into your funded supports, it may be the ECI partner that will assist you, and predominantly it will be if you are in that cohort, because what we look at in funding the ECI pathway is that they are the transition lead. So they will lead and support that full implementation for that 0 to 6 plan. If you are someone who supports in the community, potentially not complex, you have an informal network and you just need some guidance and understanding on the plan, you would be connected back with your local area coordinator. And ideally it is that person who probably gathered the information from you in that planning conversation. So if someone has some more complex circumstances in their life, so they don't have an informal network, there's issues and intersections with other mainstream services, so that may be justice or community services, and they're requiring a lot of integration and support and understanding and guidance in the implementation of their plan, the agency would fund a reasonable and necessary support of it as a support coordinator. And they're there to actually assist people to build their capacity and understanding of implementation of their plan and implement that plan. The agency actually doesn't support implementation. We actually don't have the capacity for the planners to be able to do that. So that's why we have either a provider as a support coordinator or our contracted partners to assist with that. When you get to plan review, it's then looking at who supports you. So it is that main person, that local area coordinator, who will be supporting you, ensuring that you have your evidence available for your plan review, that you're fully ready and understand what's going to be discussed, and really aware of what you want to achieve in that next 12 months or 2 years of your plan. And the support coordinator should also assist you to be able to get ready for that as well. So like I said, only if there's some complexities there that the agency will undertake that plan review. If you are working with a local area coordinator, they typically should know you better and know your circumstances and be able to support that. So access is always a difficult situation. We understand from the agency's perspective that has not been as streamlined and as easy as what we'd have liked it to be. And one of the difficulties we have identified is that the evidence of disability or the functional impact has not necessarily been described sufficiently for us to be able to make a decision under our Act. So as a component, what the agency has now identified, because of that, we're actually rolling out some training across our local health districts and with the primary health network to educate allied health professionals and GPs on describing what a functional impact is. Because typically what we have seen and why people haven't met access, so an example would be within the mobility domain, we would just see a health professional would write wheelchair. But wheelchair doesn't actually describe what that functional impact for mobility for that person is. So what we need to understand around what level of supports you require. So, and a wheelchair could be very, they're very complex pieces of equipment that can be very high tech and cost, thousands and thousands of dollars, or they could be very simple. So it's really understanding that functional impact that will assist that access process to get through. So it's also important to ensure that, and one thing that I don't like about our access request, it does say on there, provide reports or complete Section F. Okay, I would say and complete Section F, because unfortunately the medical profession looks at prescription and diagnosis. So what we would then see is reports from the specialist stating what the disability is, but not describing what that functional impact is. So therefore, under Section 24 of our Act, eligibility is not met, and the participant will receive another letter. So it's also around completing that Section F as well, so which is really important, because it doesn't. One of the questions and discussions I've had with a few people here was around that that OI is listed, type 2 is listed on list A of our disabilities, but the others aren't necessarily there. So what is important to understand is, again, the functional impact. So the disability, you have a diagnosed disability, but then it's the description of that functional impact against those life domains that will support that access pathway through. So the agency also, through trial and rollout, identified that some of the information we had available to support participants to meet access, get ready and implement their plan wasn't necessarily clear and supportive. So we've now developed booklets 1, 2 and 3. I have some outside on the table outside, so you're more than welcome to take them. There is also a link on our internet to each booklet, so it can be also downloaded and printed if people don't have, if I didn't bring enough copies, or if you'd like to share that with people who aren't here today. So it's really important that when you are going for your planning meeting, that you start to look at what are your goals, what would you like to achieve over this next 12-month or potentially 2-year period. Plans are moving towards a longer duration as well, and that's also been because of feedback from participants that they feel that they're on a treadmill of the NDIS, that they actually, you know, just meet access, finally get their planning meeting, finally get things happening, get things moving and rolling along, and then bingo, it's plan review again. So the agency has identified that that can be quite disruptive when you're just in the groove of moving through what you're needing to do. So what we are implementing is some longer duration plans. So after your first year plan, potentially we'll be looking at and having that discussion around a 2-year plan if your circumstances are stable. Also, if you're not a child, because what we do actually understand is that children up until the age of about 16, with support and capacity building, that may change significantly from 1 year to the next. So if you're over the age of 16, not a child, you will typically be able to get a longer duration plan at plan review. So it's around looking at what you want, what you'd like to achieve, how you'd like to do that, and who you'd like to support you to do that, and looking at those goals. So the goals may be something around, you know, developing skills to live independently, and that could look very differently for everyone. So someone may need some assistance with being independent in their kitchen, and, you know, being able to wanting to learn how to cook and not rely on family, friends, or a support worker for each and every meal. So that may entail some assessments, some capacity building. It might include some assistive technology, depending on each person's specific needs and supports. But the same goal for someone else may be around them independently accessing their community. So learning how to access public transport, learning how to, you know, resolve some of those challenges when they're in community and they're not sure on what's happened. You know, they've missed the bus. What do they do? You know, all those sorts of things. So each plan is an individual's plan. You shouldn't see 2 plans that look the same, and you can't compare funding with your friend's plan, or even sometimes siblings' plans will look very different, and it will depend on what sort of supports, what goals they're looking to achieve, and how they're looking to achieve that. Some of the important things is to make sure that you have updated your details. So it says, I know this says about, you know, looking at your bank details, bring that to the meeting. But if you're on MyGov and you've linked to the NDIS, you can update your details on your bank account with it via your MyGov, which is actually more efficient, because if you provide that document to us, we actually have to go through a scrutinising process and checking mechanism of more than one person checking the details and the evidence provided. And that's just to ensure safety of financial distribution of funds, so that we don't have someone putting money into the wrong person's account. So, so if you're through your MyGov is the best way to update your bank details. And really, you know, what you'd like to achieve, or what you would like your person to achieve over the next 12 months. So look at what's been working and what's been working well, or what hasn't, and how you'd like to change that. So it may well be, you know, you'd like to be that more independent, not be reliant on family, and be able to have an opportunity to be more independent as well. And it also may well be that, you know, the family understanding that you're able to be independent and having the opportunity to have, you know, for you to have some time alone, because that's also important as well. So depending on what you actually want and where you would like to head, it's looking at those typical ordinary life activities and supporting you to actually have that. So once your plan has been approved, it will be available and it will be visible in your portal within 24 hours. So that's important to actually go in and have a look and see what's available. You should also be contacted by your the local area coordinator or the ECI coordinator once that plan has been approved. If it does have a reasonable and necessary support coordination within it, you will be contacted by the approving delegate, the planner, to actually have a discussion with you about you selecting your support coordinator. Okay, it's really important that people understand that the scheme is based on choice and control, and it's really around the choice and control of the participant about identifying what service providers they'd like to assist them and how they'd like them to assist them. So that is an option, that you actually have that choice on selecting that support coordinator if that has been a funded support in your plan. The other thing, if you do require a plan in an accessible format like Braille, please talk to, or if you know friends that need that, please talk to the person, the local area coordinator, so that can actually be completed and sent out to you as soon as possible. The sooner we know about those accessible formats, which means the sooner we can get that out to you. The agency within our Act states that you should receive your plan within 7 days of approval. So, and that's an actual paper copy via the post. So it's also important that you make sure that your postal address within our system is the right postal address, because we have had some issues with that, with the transfer of data from the states for people receiving supports under the government services, that some of the addresses were old. So people weren't getting plans because they were sent to old addresses, and then we ended up like a Santa sack full of letters back to us. So that was a lot of work that we needed to go through. So just make sure when you're at plan review that your address and your postal address are correct in our system as well. So, but like I said, the best way and the easiest way to see it is via the portal, and it will be there within 24 hours of plan approval. So getting started with your plan. So first of all, have a bit of a look at it, see what's in there, understand that that's what you discussed at that planning meeting, and looking at your funding and how you'd like to, start to implement that plan, and who will be supporting you to do that. So it's really important that people understand that you do not have to give service providers a copy of your plan. So they do not need to know the level or amounts of funding that you have within your plan. Okay, it's really around, and this is the biggest change in disability services, is that it's back to a consumer model. So the disability support provider is just like the plumber or the electrician. So it's around a service agreement and a negotiation of service provision, and that should all be documented within your service agreement with that provider. I'm sure no one would just leave the back door open and say to the electrician, oh yeah, just go in and fix whatever you want. No, it's now, that is where disability has moved to. Where you hold the responsibility, you know what you would like, and it's around ensuring that that provider delivers that, and the way to have that delivered is having that documented in your service agreement.
They ask for it, and they work out exactly how many, and it's quite uncomfortable because you provide it where they work out how many sessions per week. And then they really push for like how many sessions you can have. And I'm sure we all are here, we're really proactive with how much therapy to have. We want to stay well, so we're probably quite different to other people in that who don't want to have or hard to get to therapy. So I think that's something that's
It's
great for us to know.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, it is common because under the previous models provided by states and territories, funding was block funded. So you didn't even know how much money typically the state government had provided a service that they nominated for you to deliver that service. And I've actually heard some horrendous stories that services would keep $1,000 to cover their management, or keep $1,000 of the allocated funds to cover emergencies. Well, if you don't have any emergencies in your service with them, there's no reason for them to do that. But that there was less accountability under the previous funding model, and people weren't receiving the supports that they were supposed to, which is what has also resulted in this. And it's around being consumer aware, and that you need to understand that they are delivering a service that you agree to. So, yeah.
You want to look to get another service. You can't do that without an OT, and the OT won't do the next report unless there's funding in your. You've got to have the funding there for them to do the report, to request more funding. And they want to know, they've got to know how much money is there, because if they've got to write a report that's going to take them 8 hours to write, you've got to have enough funding for that report to be done. So they've got to know how much money you've got in your fund to do that.
If an OT is charging you 8 hours to write a report on service provision, that's way too much. Like, honestly, like, I've worked in medico-legal prior to coming to the NDIA, and the most I've ever charged is 10 hours for a significantly 30-page report for a solicitor. So if we're not getting that...
report.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to change it, he wants SDA.
So that's actually, yeah, so that's quite different, but yeah.
But we had to have funding in the current
Yep.
plan. There had to be enough funding left once that was a decision to be made to
So-
have that report done.
Okay, so there's probably a few, I think, issues to look at there. So around ensuring that there's enough funding around looking at moving accommodation services, or looking at housing options. If that wasn't a goal in your plan, that there...
There's been a goal in his plan for 3 years.
So therefore there should have been enough funding there to actually make sure that that assessment was undertaken. So there should have actually been, and there's significant guidelines around what needs to be, built into plans to support that whole process. So, but anyway, I can have a chat to you later about that.
Is there some sort of outline of what a reasonable fee charges for all these services?
Yep.
And is that on the site?
There is. So the most the agency will pay is what we have deemed reasonable and necessary, which is in our price guide. Our price guide is actually on the internet, and it's a public document that's available. Our price guide is set under regions, so depending on the level of where you live against the MMM model, the Monash medical model, will determine the level of the hourly rate of the price guide. So what we identify is that people in remote, far remote areas that we give them a different pricing level, and that's because of all the challenges around access and serviceability in those areas as well. So yeah, can I just go to that lady first? Yeah.
He was given a set of money, and the lady was like really excited about the amount of therapy it would mean. But then when we went to the therapist, they're all charging an hour for travel and an hour for therapy, so that halves what he can do. But then, so he needs equipment, so I had to choose between therapy this year or the equipment report, and we will not have the funds to get another report to go back and say, this is what we need next year, because we can only afford the equipment.
So around travel, there's some clear guidelines around what therapists can charge for travel.
And they can, like on your website it says they
So so if that's what's happening, then there should have been an incorporation of that into the plan. So yeah, you need to let, I suppose, again, have that discussion with the planner. If there's not enough funding there, I talk about reviewing the plan a bit later on, so we can talk about a process for you with that there.
I think we need to open it up pretty soon,
Yep.
because it's,
Just
Sorry, I was just going to say,
yep.
you're probably going to talk about it a bit later, and full disclosure, I'm a support coordinator, I work for Northside, but change circumstances forms, white touch reviews, those sorts of processes within the NDIA to, if something, the plan's not right, what do we need to know?
Yep.
about,
So I'll keep moving through, because
trying
there's
to get that change, so-
There's a few more there. So we talked about who can help you to start your plan. It's either the ECI, the LAC, or the support coordinator. We talked about that. So everyone, I'm sure, has a plan and knows what they look like. They're very different, and again, the changes to the plan came out of consultation with participants and families, because the wording and the structure of the old plan didn't actually support, or people didn't understand. And that's really around our budgets and understanding what capacity building is, what core supports are, and what capital items are as well. So there, that's important to understand as well. So one of the other things that was important on the list today was talking about the Disability Reform Commission's or Council's decisions around health-related supports for NDIS participants. So it has been now agreed that with all states and territories, that these are the areas that the NDIS participants will be able to receive some health support funding within their plan. Again, it is a choice and control. So you don't have to move to a new provider. That's a choice, but you may choose to. So to provide those supports, and funding will be available within your core budget. So if you have got a current plan, the utilisation of the core budget is where the providers will be able to claim that funding at the moment. Once you go to plan review, it will be incorporated into the necessary components of the plan for those providers moving forward. So some of those supports, so dysphagia, what we're looking at is around the assessment and implementation of mealtime plans and implementation of that. It's also looking at the training of staff to be able to implement a mealtime plan as well. So diabetic management looks at the development of the diabetic management plan, as well as the implementation of that diabetic management plan and the daily maintenance and care of that. So that would be funded under the NDIS, and to ensure that a suitably qualified individual is supporting with that. And it also will then also provide support to train the people who you're working with to ensure that they are qualified and now able to support you in that area. So continence supports as well, that has always been in there, but now this is more around the catheter maintenance and ensuring that there's suitable types of qualified and competent workers to support with that sort of those areas of assistance, as well as training of staff to support and assist you with that as well. So wound and pressure care supports include the management of the pressure care area and any consumables that may be associated with that, because previously that sort of stuff wasn't funded. As well, again, the lymphoma machines, as well as assistance and use of the equipment and training of suitable staff to ensure that that is undertaken appropriately. So I will come to you in a minute. I'll just get through each of these. So respiratory supports, so looking at the clinical implementation and daily maintenance of tracheostomy. So, and that's to ensure that that is a suitably qualified and competent worker to including suctioning and cleaning. So training of those staff as well, and the provisions of the tracheostomy equipment and consumables. So yes, I think the provision of a ventilator, air humidifier, portable suction machine and/or cough assistance machine will now be funded.
What about CPAP?
I think that comes under. I think that comes under the provision of the ventilator. So I think that's where that comes in under that. Because yes, my understanding is that it will be supported now.
People have had to fight for them.
They did, because previously it was identified as a health support. The definition was that if it was a life-sustaining support, it was a support that was to be funded under health. And not disability. So the consultation and the outcomes of the Disability Reform Council now means that these supports will be funded for participants of the scheme under their NDIS plan. So nutritional support, dietetic consultations, as well as some training to ensure that people understand the appropriateness of their right diet to support their disability, as well as the PEG maintenance and care, any changes to stoma, any stoma changes, those sorts of things, as well as the HEN and the PEG equipment and consumables, because previously some of those weren't funded under the NDIS, but now it will all be, as well as the thickener that may be required as a component of the dysphagia or the HEN requirements. So podiatry supports, so an assessment and development of a podiatry care plan, as well ensuring it's a suitably qualified worker that undertakes that, and the implementation of that plan. And then the epilepsy supports, so including that the epilepsy management plan, the emergency medication management plan are actually a component of your NDIS funding moving forward, as well as the epilepsy seizure monitoring as well, ensuring that the staff and the training for all staff you're working with are aware of the requirements under your epilepsy management plan and emergency medication management plan as well. So there's more information regarding this on the Department of Social Services website, as well as the Disability Reform Council communique, and there's a fact sheet on our website as well, which is a great lot of information. So, question?
Please know that none of us intend to shoot the messenger. We know it's not
That's
your
fine.
fault personally.
I'm used to it.
But yes, it's something that's quite emotive. Now, something like podiatry for people who have OI who are ambulant, and I'm not sure about the people who are not ambulant, that's a constant. That's everybody needs that, everybody deserves that, everybody benefits from that. Is there any window in the future of the NDIS where that will go down under the list of OI? That's perfectly reasonable and necessary, and we don't have to fight for that every time.
So under the training that's being implemented throughout the agency with regards to these health-related changes, podiatry would be one that would be considered appropriate for that disability. So it may not be, so if someone has a disability, I won't say just, but they have intellectual disability. So therefore, it may not be a typical health support for them, but someone with OI who has, requirements around that sort of support to ensure that their mobility is maintained, etc., it would typically be seen as reasonable and necessary. So you will see changes, and you need to understand this is a massive change for the agency, and really have those discussions at your planning review around what are those disability health supports under those areas that you require in your plan moving forward. So everyone knows about self-managed, plan-managed and NDIA managed funding. Any questions about that? Fern has the slideshow so she can share it with everyone, so that's fine. And it's around, buying. You are a consumer now. It's under consumer rights. If you're having problems with service providers, you can report them to fair trading. I'm not sure if you're aware, but someone who gets so many reports with fair trading goes up on their website for the next month as a bad provider. So whether you're a tradie or whether you're any sort of retail, so it's really important to understand that disability services now have to maintain the state requirements and consumer law as well. That's a big change for them. Ensuring that you understand your service agreement, that it is in plain English, and that you know your requirements and what should and shouldn't be delivered within that. So what do you do if you're unhappy? You can speak to your local area coordinator. There's also provisions around the Quality and Safeguards Commission now manage the registration of all providers in New South Wales and South Australia. As the scheme transitions in, they will take over the management and registration of all providers across the country, and there's significant changes around registration and ongoing registration for providers moving forward.
Please remind us
Yep.
who we need to report unsatisfactory providers to?
So it's the NDIS, Quality and Safeguards Commission. So they actually have a hyperlink on their page where you can complete a complaints form and report issues with providers to them directly. I am aware that they're very serious about their job, and they have actually deregistered several providers in New South Wales already. So they're ensuring that service provisions are maintained for people with disabilities. So internal review. So what can be reviewed under the NDIS? Any decision we make can be reviewed. So that whether that be an access decision or whether that be a plan review or a decision to not provide equipment, you should receive all decisions. You should receive a letter about. So you then are fully informed of what that decision has been. I know there's probably been some hiccups in that areas, and not all people have been informed of that in writing, but that's what our legislation states. We're moving towards implementing and totally adhering to our legislation. So you will be receiving those letters if something's not being funded in a plan or you haven't met access, and on there is a process that you're able to work through. So first of all, you can have an internal review of your decision, so you can actually request within 90 days of that decision date, you can request a review of that decision. So that's called an internal review.
But what if they don't even respond? I put in an internal review a week after my plan.
Yep.
And I never got anything, no response.
So that whilst we were in transition in New South Wales, yes, that was, I suppose, the experience of, yeah, that's right, that was the experience of participants. It shouldn't have been, but it was. I'm happy to talk to you, Julie, and we can look into that. So what the agency has done, they've established 2 review teams, so 2 national review teams, an internal review team and a national review team. They will look at the reviews of decisions, so which is under Section 100 of our Act, and we will be adhering to our Act and notifying you within 14 days of receiving that. So that's the outcome that we're moving towards. The national review team looks at unscheduled reviews, so they're reviews under Section 48 of our Act, which look at change of circumstances or instances where something's happened and the funding isn't going to maintain your support, so you'll need to move.
And Ellen, just
Yep.
because it's important for all of
Yep.
us, we could be fine and relatively independent or floating along with our plans really well, and then all of a sudden have an injury, and to some people it may not seem like anything catastrophic happened, but to us, because of our disability,
Yep.
it's catastrophic.
Yes, definitely.
Blow out our plan within a month.
Yep. So what happens is that you need to submit that change of circumstances. Again, we're looking at adhering to the timeframes within our Act, and someone should make a decision on that within 14 days. They will then let you know. It doesn't mean it will be reviewed in 14 days. It means that we will say to you, yes, we will, or no, we won't review this.
Is that on the
And
website?
yes, it is on the website. There is a form on the website. Yep.
Because this is the group where you've got a plan and then it can totally change. Break
Definitely.
become
Yep.
in past the dependent, I've got to get to university, got to get to work.
Yep, totally. So that is something that, yes, we will endeavour to action urgently, that what we actually say is utilise the funding you have in your plan to actually use it in the way that you need to maintain the supports with those changes, and understanding what those risks are moving forward for you and what's actually happened. So the level of impact that will then escalate that review to happen more quickly.
But I've been told it can take up to 3 months for them to actually review.
So we don't actually have a time frame.
But
We,
they
yeah.
say that with the shortages of staff and that, it
Yep.
takes that long. And like, so what are we meant to do in 3 months?
So again, it's around.
They're healed by then.
So it's around understanding that impact and us knowing, so we can actually assess that risk to you.
Well,
So
I
if we're
have
not,
that implemented in my plan for in case, and they're like,
no, we don't actually do an in case,
in our
but
situation, it's like,
Yep.
it's gonna happen.
yep,
to me.
yep.
That's the way our disability is.
Yep. So then it's around. So look, I'm going to actually take that back to the agency, because that could actually, maybe be incorporated in some guidelines moving forward around your disability. So we can look at that. I just have this lady here. Yep.
I'm 70 in 2 months.
Yes.
I did 13 years voluntary with People with Disabilities Australia. I'm a life member, and I talked about OI, and because I had it. Now I had a problem in March 5.5 months ago.
Yep.
I've got type 1, but under your category, I wouldn't have even qualified. I will never qualify. I have 8 different disabilities. I don't look like I've got anything wrong, and this is what you guys will not understand. Now I now have a level 3 package, which I'm having to, I've only had it since August.
With age care.
So that's aged care. Yeah,
But
aged
that
care's
doesn't matter.
different.
That's the same thing.
No, it's different.
No, what I'm trying to say, I'm having to negotiate something like this in my aged care for level 3 with no one to help me. And it's not fair because of when I was born. I fought for PWD, for OI, saying we were so different. And I mean, who goes to hospital and takes 5.5 months to heal with type 1, which you guys wouldn't even recognise? And you're saying, oh, you've got to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
We know
Look,
that.
we're
We're so grateful.
Yeah,
and
that's okay.
you've
So,
been listening. Thank
yeah,
you.
no, all good. So
It's
the other thing is
wonderful,
we do need to move on. If your decision is then declined, you do have the right of appeal through an independent body, which is the AAT. So, and look, I'm not going to promote it, but I do encourage people that if they believe that the right decision has not been made, that is a right of appeal for every Australian. And with a new scheme, sometimes an independent body reviewing all the evidence can actually support the changes that our scheme needs to make as well. So
And there are disability advocates that can help.
that's the other thing. So making a complaint. So I'll just quickly get through these so then we can do our panel, and I'm sure we can talk about those. So there's a few ways you can make a complaint to the agency. Feedback at NDIS, you can complain about absolutely anything and everything to that. You don't have to, it could be through an email, it doesn't have to be through a form. Those we endeavour to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours and have that complaint resolved in 21 days. So that's our commitment, as well as you have the Commonwealth Ombudsman that you can utilise, as well as the NDIS Commission. So the other thing, the really important thing to get to is currently our legislation is under review. So our Minister Stuart Robert announced the Participant Service Guarantee, which is reviewing our legislation, and that's really important for participants to contribute to. So what we're looking at is actually within the legislation, he wants some designated time frames. So I've heard around here everyone talking about, well, that could be 3 months, or I've waited a year. That is what has resulted in our Minister announcing this review of our legislation and our guidelines. So, and his vision is to have the service guarantee for participants in place by the 1st of July next year. So you can have your say on this, and it's really important that you actually do. It's actually, the agency has nothing to do with it. The Department of Social Services are undertaking the review in consultation with an independent expert. So there's ways that you can do an online survey, you can provide a written submission, or you can participate in a workshop that's happening. I am aware that they're on Eventbrite, so you can actually have a look on Eventbrite, or you can actually go into engage.dss.gov.au. So we are an agency that listens. I've been with the agency since 2016, and in that time frame, I think I've done a 720. We have been around and around and changing to try and get it right for participants, and it's an ongoing change organisation until we get there. We are reasonably, I say this and I get sort of hailed down a few times, we're a new organisation and we're on the run. We weren't supposed to be even actually started to roll out until this year, but because of the public pressure, the government rolled it out early. So we didn't have processes in place, we didn't have procedures in place, we didn't have staffing in place in some areas, and it's been not the best process and not the best service, but our goal is to actually make it right. And I'm really encouraged by our current minister. I've met him personally, and his understanding and commitment to people with disabilities is amazing. So I think his announcements around some of the ECI issues and the interim plans around the service participant guarantee is also important, that his focus is bringing us back to our participant, which is important. If that community.engagement.newsouthwales@NDIS is my state team's inbox. If you do have any questions or require any support, you can email that and we can get back to you. We do have the 1-800 number, and something that I just read before I came this morning is that there are some portal upgrades happening over the weekend, that there will be some changes in the portal, so you should be able to see a bit of a chocolate wheel from my understanding of your funding, what has been spent, what has been allocated and what is available. So hopefully those IT changes have been successful, and some of those changes will support you to be able to understand that funding and where it is and what's happening. Okay, question there. There was a question down here, but did we want to move to the panel?
Yeah, I think so.
I just want to say thank you.
Oh. Yep.
I've never had any services until recently, so big thank you from me. It's been fantastic. So that was just one thing. That's been great for me.
No, and people, it's people like yourself that's never received services before, that really encourages me that the scheme's here to support the right people. So thank you.
I think I want to just start by saying that, this is a long weekend, and Allie gave us the morning, and I said to her, look, people are going to have lots of concerns. And she said, I'm used to it.
I am.
So I want to just thank you first and start by saying thank you for coming. And she is open to questions and helping us navigate the way we can best make the NDIS work for all of us. So what's the next question?
So the lady with the yellow
and I
scarf.
should just make
Yes.
sure, I'm sorry. So I'm Julie Harrickson, and we also have Bernadette Sabatine. Bernadette's on the board, and as most of us know, has OI herself, but also has 2 children with OI. Okay.
So what I would like the NDIA, for you to take back to the NDIA of us as a society to say that when there is a change in circumstance, it's not a change in circumstance, that is the circumstance of this disability, that it's changing
unpredictable.
on an ongoing basis, that it fluctuates wildly, and that when we, in that fluctuation, that's not a time that we have the ability to drop everything and lodge a report and ask for a change of things and wait for things to come back when a child has just had a surgery and things and needs hydrotherapy straight away and needs physiotherapy straight away and all of those sorts of things. we don't have time to ask for that right then, but we need it right then. And so I heard you say that you don't have a just in case clause, but that's exactly how we try and use it. We're in South Australia, it's been rolled out for years. But that's exactly how we try and use it, that we need this funding just in case, but we try our absolute hardest not to use it. A, because we don't want to use the money unnecessarily when there are lots of people, you know, all taking out of the same bucket. But also so that when something dramatic does happen, that we have everything that we need, not we run out by then on day-to-day stuff and then we have to apply for something more thereafter. That's just the circumstance of this disability.
No, that's fine. Look, I totally understand that, and I've been working significantly with the National Mental Health Team because people with the primary disability of a psychosocial disability are exactly the same. So it's really about understanding and ensuring that budgets are provided to support someone with a disability that fluctuates. So it's about me being able to take this back to the agency so that they understand and the planners understand that typically this does happen for people with this disability, and then therefore we need to have a level of more flexibility within the plan for them to be able to ensure that their needs are met. If it's something that's significantly catastrophic, probably that level of flexibility is probably not going to be there, and there we really do need to know so we can support appropriately, because that may mean a change in your equipment requirements or assistive technology, which isn't necessarily something that can be always incorporated into a plan. But on that note, we are actually looking towards some changes around assistive technology, ensuring that we have an understanding of the baseline requirements, so that if a request for Julie's wheelchair comes in, and we know that Julie has, this wheelchair that's, has all these features, and if the request comes in for that, it's a like-for-like replacement. And it doesn't need to go through the scrutiny that they may have gone through previously. So we're moving towards some changes with our assistive technology as well, and there will be some significant announcements around that in the upcoming month.
Sorry, and just in addition to that, when we don't use that funding that we've been allocated because we're trying not to use it because we don't need it this 6 months or this year, then to then have to fight for it again next year for it not to be taken away, even though we're trying not to use it.
Yeah. Look, you know what? That's so. That's so discouraging. I hear that all the time, and I go back to service delivery and I say to them, just because someone, and I even made a massive announcement across the state service delivery this week that, participants are saying, oh, well, you didn't use that, so we're going to have to cut that. No, it's not about that. It's about providing appropriate disability support funding to support a person across that year. And that sort of language I don't want to hear, and I don't want to hear that you have to feel like you've got to fight for it. The whole aim of the scheme is to ensure that it's around appropriate disability support funding and moving away from the old behaviours of having to fight for it. So that shouldn't happen. And yeah, so
and I'm really sorry to use that language. And
no, I do.
That's actually what it feels like.
Yeah, no, and look.
Didn't have to fight for it before, but we do now.
Yeah, so I think it's probably, depending on what state or territory where you were from, that some people felt like they did. So where some look, and I think it's different for everyone, but I think the importance is actually to have your say as a component of the changes and the review that's underway, because I think that's really important, because that shouldn't happen, and it should be around very much the appropriate disability supports. Like, I've worked in all areas of the agency. I came into the agency as a planner team leader, and worked with the early rollout of the children's commitment in New South Wales in the Peen Blue Mountains. and then from there worked across, rolling out across the state. I then moved into the partner space, worked with our partners on their performance and training, training them as well. Lots of challenges for our partners as well, and a lot of that also has to do with the way that the agency has structured some of that. So I've, reported a lot of issues back around that as well, and then now have moved into the community engagement space, working with all of the mainstream services, because I feel that that's an important area across the state to actually try and support change and have consistency, which is what we're moving towards. So it means I can actually I have input into the high level directors of state service delivery, which actually promotes some of those changes. So yeah.
Fiona had a question here.
Yep.
This is going to come out really complicated. My husband doesn't have OI, but he's in a wheelchair. So we both have our own cars, but they're set up so we can both drive them. I need extension pedal, he uses hand control. He's had his car for 19 years, and his last 2 plans, he has said, I'm going to be upgrading my vehicle, I need to get it modified. Last year's plan, that was okay. We had other things that came, we couldn't afford to buy a car last year, so we put it through to this year. We purchased a car, his plan was reviewed in July, and it was approved that he could get, and basically what you said, like for like. There was no changes to what we wanted with the vehicle and the setup. The OT came out and she said, look, there's no changes to it. I will just put in my recommendation. We purchased the car about 4 weeks ago. The guy who does the modification, who is registered with the RTA, he has done our previous vehicles. He came out, like for like, did all the work. We then got the compliance certificate with the RTA. It was put into the NDIS. They've knocked it back saying we're not paying for that because the OT, what the RTA is specifying is, for those of you who are drivers, you have to comply with the RTA. If they don't approve and certify the work that's been done, they override the OT in the end, because if it doesn't match up to what they call safe. So it's all been above board with the RTA. Basically the OT said, look, it is like for like. Now the NDIS have said to my husband, well, these things can take up to 3 years. You should have given us notice.
No, that's not right.
And
So
he
if
said to them, well, how could that be right? What if I had written my car off last week? How am I going to have notice of that? So now we've had to pay up front, and whilst our modifications was $6,000, to some other people it could be in the tens of thousands. I mean, I know 6,000 is not a lot of money, but when you're living with disability, it is, because you have to ever forking out money.
Yep.
So now we're left in limbo land, because he's been ringing every day, and every day someone else tells him a different story.
Can you email our community.engagement.New South Wales? Are you a New South Wales participant?
Yes.
Yep. Can you email, and I will get that looked into, and we'll get back to
I
you.
don't know the ballpark thing compared to probably what other people.
Yeah.
We're not, living on the breadline, but it's not right. But it was approved in his plan. We have done everything in compliance, and they're now saying, well, no, you need to give us notice. But you can't give notice on something that's...
Yep. Yeah, if you just have your husband email with all the details and say that you met me today and we discussed it, I'll get that looked into, and we'll get someone to get back to him around that. That's my understanding is that's not what should occur. Look, I've actually been involved with a significant car modification of $80,000, and that's to change a young man's life, so we can go to work, so we can access the community. So $6,000 is, and it is not considerable compared to his. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much the cost is if it's actually around the right support for you to be able to be independent and have an ordinary life. So yeah, definitely email me through that detail. Yep.
I think there's a lot of grey areas in what's medical, what's not. say like my son gone to the Wilton Children's Hospital, had a fracture, but the hospital said because you're in the NDIS, we can't supply you with a member. Then you go to our service provider, we can't supply you with a member either because it's medical, it's not.
So that, So that typically should have been a supply under health, because it is around a treatment. And I don't believe that would come under the new DRC changes. So it's around also us working with those organisations so their staff understand their roles and responsibilities as well as the NDIS. The hospital, public hospital system,
If you say you're NDIS, then they can't just wipe their hands and say, no, we can't.
No, they can't. Not at all. Not at all. So all local health districts in New South Wales have a NDIS transition lead advisor or disability diversity manager, and that person actually has a direct link with myself to actually iron out some of those sorts of issues, and then us to go in and provide education to the staff as well. So. So that should also, there should be something available in the same team over there. If you'd like to send through the details, I can actually have our, the director in South Australia is Alan, and I can have Alan or one of his team make contact with that hospital to provide some support and education.
Do you guys have consumables under your plan? Because we specifically use that as an example that we would require a mood boot at some stage. And we got $300 in consumables that we're allowed to purchase. So that's something to consider. It's called a mobility aid. So there is money under consumables for mobility aids, small, minor mobility aids.
So that would be the low adaptive equipment, and it's probably, I think it should be more than $300.
Oh, that's what I got.
But you got,
that's what I got for funding. But
that's what my son got $300 in case we needed to hire a wheelchair.
Okay.
Yeah, so it should be,
Rental makes me laugh.
Rental,
like, I'm really going to rent a wheelchair.
Yeah, I know.
What about, say, after the break, needing physio, like maybe needing massage or ultrasound and all that? Is that covered?
So,
See, you know what I mean? How can you get better if you don't use that stuff?
Yeah.
And the service providers say, oh, we can't do ultrasound, no, we're just here to do movement or stuff like that.
Yeah, so typically, the ultrasound and the massage, those sorts of things would typically be seen more as a hands-on treatment, where if he was doing something like hydrotherapy or a developed program to assist him to increase his muscle tone or strength would be something that would potentially come under the NDIA.
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
We do have that, but what about when he needs, before he gets the hydro, to get to that point?
So if he has come out of hospital, there's a component of acute care support that a hospital is supposed to support with treatment, which is supposed to be up to 6 weeks.
Okay, so they can't deny you that if you're on NDIS?
No. Yeah.
I have a question over here.
Sort of on what the gentleman was saying, I've been refused help from the hospital and refused help by the NDIS for physio or help. So I was actually wondering, I had 6 months, it was taking me so long to get over this, 6 months where I got nothing, except for doing my own physio, my own massage and Harvey. And they're on and off, because NDIS says it's the hospital, and the hospital say when they found out, and I finished the program a few weeks ago, I was on NDIS and they really got shitty about it. The rehab afterwards and everything.
So exactly that. So rehab, so I actually had a discussion with a hospital recently, and it's like, oh no, we need to get this person discharged, because they're all about discharge hospitals. They're all about, they've been in a bed for too long. So, you know, they're all about that. So I get significantly told about the bed day cost. However, this discussion was, well, we need physio because we need someone to be able to build her her functional capacity so she can actually go home, and we need someone to do that at home. And I said, oh, that sounds like rehab to me. You've got a rehab unit. She should be going to rehab post-surgery, not actually being discharged home and the responsibility of the agency. I said, because we wouldn't typically do that in-home rehab. We would look at what supports they need, supporting them to build their ongoing functioning capacity to maintain a level of status quo, which I know for certain conditions varies. You may get to a level of a status quo and then something happens, there's an impact and then that changes. We understand that you need that support and to build your capacity back. But if it is post-surgery and before discharge, it should be under rehab.
Can I follow up on that though? When you say, understand that if after an injury you need to build up, but for us, we have to maintain that.
That's
and
right.
That means therapy
that
or
does.
hydro,
Yep.
and we're all having to fight for that.
So
because
you
they
shouldn't.
say, well,
you shouldn't,
you're
Julie.
fine.
No, you shouldn't, because around that's about maintaining your functional capacity,
That's right, and
which is maintaining your level of.
cutting it.
Yeah, no. So if there's issues around that in planning, definitely email me and let me know, and we can have a chat with service delivery around that as well.
Yeah.
Because what we don't want to see is someone to lose a level of independence because of the lack of, therapy or support. We don't want that to happen, because that's totally against what we're hearing about.
Yeah.
Can I just add on to that? But I was in rehab for 7 months.
Yep.
Yeah, just over 7 months. And when I came out, I got absolutely nothing. And I've gone backwards, and I'm starting to come forward. So it really needs to be,
Yep. Okay. Yep.
No, there was Matt over here. I'm sorry.
Just to add on to those add-ons, so I understand that massage is considered a medical classification, but particularly with our condition, because we have a lot of joint and skeletal based immobility. So, for example, I can't get into a lot of stretching postures, so I have a lot of severe tension in my muscles that cannot be released. So while I'm trying to do physiotherapy and rehabs to try and increase my capacity, I'm then putting myself in a lot of danger for injury because I'm not able to release the tension that I'm building through those capacity building activities. Is there any kind of considerations through the NDIA to start to look at those classifications and try and break down this black and white idea of what constitutes this or that?
Look, I think that's a component that you can report back through our changes with our legislation, that they're looking at what deems reasonable and necessary. So that could be something there. But Matt, if you'd like to email me some of those sorts of things, I can also then feed that back to our our policy and our participant pathway domain, so that they can then develop ongoing resources around specific, which they have done, specific disabilities. So it's, to me, I'm feeling like that OI is an area that the agency needs to have some more guidance around support. So if you can give me those details, I can forward that back to our participant pathway and planning team to look at developing that resource for planners.
Why I'm giving you my example as an older person, because it's for the person that misses out. Like, I went to hospital for a non-OI problem, but what you need to realise, if I was in your scheme, that the underlying thing, as soon as we hit hospital, you say brittle bones, and they don't want to touch you, they don't understand you. I've been put in geriatric wards for 3 weeks, wasting rehab person overseas. Now tomorrow starts my 6th week home. No physio yet, except what I've done. No hydro yet, though I got to do the pool. Now my muscles are going backwards. It's going to take me years to get back what I had. I've lost miles of bone density since the re-break of a hip, and I'm just falling apart because I can't even get it under the stupid level 3 package, because they say you can't get it in a hospital, and yet you need people that know to understand you. What's wrong if you're not being put out to private people who don't understand you?
Are you connected with an advocate?
No.
The advocacy program for aged care?
No, I don't even know about it. I don't know about anything.
We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about that. You need an advocate.
And they're letting you fight through it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the Department of Social Services actually have a list of all disability advocacy services on their website. So that might be the first place to start and have a conversation with an advocate to support you through that as well.
What I'm trying to say for other people, you need to understand that they will have, because they said, do you want this operation? And I said, I have to, and they said, why? Because I've got all the arthritises, and you know how cold it's been since April. I wake up, I can't move, and I said to the doctor, if I don't have it, I'm an arthritic statue, tough about everything else. I will just sit there and I will die. And then I was told in rehab, I will put you in a nursing home because you look like you're not advancing. It's because of the jolly OI that I'm not advancing and it takes longer.
Yeah. So the rehab unit and the specialists within there should have a better understanding of that.
They didn't even have a referral to my rehab person. I had to ask for it. The last thing is my physio as I walked out the door.
Yes.
And only because I understood the system through working with PWD. What about the others that don't understand the system, who are like me? And as I said, those that are now 65 to 75, there's nothing for us. There should have been a transition for us whereby we were allowed to get into the system.
So that was agreed by all state and territory and the Commonwealth. So that was the cut-off point because of the My Aged Care system and the establishment
we were the right
of.
age when you started doing it in New South Wales, and by the time the rollout.
You're too old
No,
already.
no.
Too old already.
Yeah, so you needed to be
You missed
under
out by 2
65.
years.
You needed to be under 65 when it rolled out in your area. So yeah, and that was that higher level government agreement at the establishment of the NDIS because of the establishment of the My Aged Care facilities and services that were already in place.
I've been having services for 23 years. My parents have been paying for very costly equipment, which cost them a fortune, and they got nothing.
So yeah, yep.
Other
we
questions?
understand. Yep.
Yes.
So
Sarah.
one of the other issues that we as OI, people and other people that I know with similar kinds of disabilities, when they've been given their plans, they've asked for something really specific. That's the one thing that they really need, a wheelchair, a mobility aid or something or other, and they've been given a prescription and they've had their reports put in and it's going to cost this much and that's the only provider and that's how much it's going to cost. And then the report comes back and says, yeah, you've been approved and here's half of the money for that, so you can't access that. And here's another pool of money over here for airy, fairy, fabulous. Isn't that great? We've given you all of this money, but that's not anything that's useful to them that they can use for what it is that they actually need because that's allocated to something else. And it's really,
So
we've got money
if
in our plan that's of no use to us whatsoever, but not enough for what we actually need.
So is the equipment, is it the equipment requirements that have not been funded appropriately? Is that what you're saying? So my understanding is that it may look like, and that I'd probably have to have a look at your plan and give you some advice. But when we develop a plan, if we know that there will be a wheelchair coming up and we've got an idea of it, it will be put in as a line item, but it will be, and it may say $10,000. But what it then means, and it would typically have on it quote required. Okay, with that quote required, it means that the planner can adjust the amount of that funding when they make and accept that service booking to the nominated provider. So it doesn't matter necessarily that it only says $10,000 because if it's $18,000, the planner can adjust that as per the quotes when they establish that service booking and make that referral to that provider.
And sometimes it even says no money allocated.
Yeah. That's right. It may have
still
zero.
there.
Yeah. And it.
Managed, which is what we were.
Yep.
We put the quote in. They then knocked the quote back, but because they said there's no pre-approved funds for this, even though it was written into the plan.
So there should be.
Some AT is agency managed, even if the rest of your plan is self-managed. So you have to be really careful to read every line. Because like all my AT is agency managed, but everything else is self-managed. So it's tricky.
That's right, Julie. And typically we would agency manage AT, and that because it's around the liability and the risk to ensure that the delivery is the right, or the purchase is the right piece of equipment. And the reason that's happened is because we've actually seen that someone's wanted a wheelchair, and then they decided, oh look, I'll just go buy a scooter instead. The scooter didn't actually meet their physical support requirements and impacted their disability more significantly. So that's why we typically would agency manage AT. So
and
yeah.
You've just got to get a good OT who writes the report
Yes.
the right way, so the NDIS
So,
doesn't
well-
scrutinise it, pull it apart and do whatever they want.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got 2 children on different plans, and one child specifically has a box and says quote required.
Yep.
Another child has nothing, and that's the child that actually needs the
Yeah.
equipment more.
So-
So I've put in the quote, like
Yep.
I ran the LAC, the LAC,
Yep.
and we put the quote through.
Yep.
And he's, correct me if I'm wrong, a light touch review.
So I don't like that word, light touch, right?
Okay.
There is no light touch about a light touch review. It is actually a significant same amount of time and work.
So we're actually going through another review.
But once that equipment has been provided, that then indicates that the plan needs to be reviewed, and that can then build in that funding into the plan. So that shouldn't be a problem. And if everything else remains the same, it can then just be added on.
Yep.
And that's why they're calling it light touch, but it's not light touch. But yeah, definitely that can happen. There was a couple of questions here.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say, I just recently got the NDIS, so I actually got through pretty quick, which was really good. And I just had my new plan and all that sort of stuff. But I had a similar issue with the way it was written up, but it was the year before that. So at one point, there was actually money in there for the chair that I was.
Yep.
And that was the quote you're talking about.
Yes.
Then I questioned some of the other plan, and it got changed, pretty quickly because the LAC negotiated with the plan and so forth, because stuff was missing, like money for repairs and stuff like that. So then that was added in, and that money was taken out, and I questioned that again, and she said, look, it's there, it just not shown on the plan. So it's kind of all over the moment, probably for a year, and hopefully, like a lot of this stuff, hopefully it'll settle and it'll become predictable.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
It'll lessen anxiety.
And
I think that's really important.
that's right. And what was your name, sorry? Andrew. Look, I think you did the right thing. Before you actually, made a complaint, put in for an internal review, you actually had that discussion with your local area coordinator and said, I need to understand what's in this plan. I need to understand, what it's, got or what it hasn't got, and then truly understanding that. And then the local area coordinator can actually assist with some of those issues like that. So that's important.
I just want to make a quick statement on the next question. The lady down the end said, I got money for what I didn't want and didn't get money for what I want. So my OT just put the submission in again and I got what I wanted. Started a new plan, it was fine.
Yeah.
Just said just keep submitting it.
I think the other change that for the scheme and for people to understand is that we are an evidence-based organisation. Okay, so it's around utilising those professionals to assist you to provide that evidence to the organisation so that the appropriate funding can be incorporated into your plan, whether that's for ongoing daily supports, whether that's for therapy, whether that's for equipment, wheelchairs, etc., or a capital item, a home modification, those sorts of things, car mods. We're based on, we make the assessment against the evidence that we have. So at the time of your plan review or your planning meeting, make sure you have all of the evidence available to you, to the planner, so it can be assessed and discussed and incorporated into the plan. So we just had a couple of...
Couple over here, too, we'll be back.
Yes, that's right. Your local area coordinator or your support coordinator should be actually chasing up that evidence for you with your providers.
When you get a part-time LAC, the rest of the officers, we can't talk to them today, they're not here, so we can't do anything. We eventually got changed office to a different area so that we had an LAC that we could actually communicate with.
Yep.
It's been thrown back to the old office, to the office that there's complete
From WA as well.
Are you from
No,
Western
I'm from New South
Wales?
Wales.
Okay, that's fine.
And
So
he's put in a review, it apparently didn't go to the right place. They rang and said it's got to go
that's not...
because of the SDA funding.
Mm.
As far as I understand, it hasn't got moved. It hasn't actually reached to the SDA.
The panel. It needs to go to the panel. Yep.
So from what we can gather, it's lost in the ethos.
Did you want to email me the details and we can follow that up? No,
And
that's
can
not
I
a
just
problem.
say, you're not
Yep.
you're not actually gonna like this, but I have to say in these sorts of situations that I've been through the review of the decision numerous times now, and the key word that you can say that will move butts is MP and media.
We actually went, and because if you get into the website, the actual minister that was on at the time we had all the problems with on the website was the wrong name.
So anyway, so look, can I just say I totally understand that because I also was the members and senators contact officer for my region. So I have a great relationship with all of our federal MPs and our state disability minister or our previous state disability minister in New South Wales because that was my role. I do understand that, that yes, that is an option, and that is an option for every single Australian, that it is a service that we have available for everyone and to seek additional support. However, whether it gets progressed more quickly or not it is, you know...
It did for me, but I think that was because it was a Labor.
He
So
says, well, I'm in the opposition, so there's nothing I can do.
So,
mine was
no.
the opposite. They said,
So-
I'll take it on. So they were willing to...
Yeah, look, I think it just depends on circumstances, depends on risk. So what gets looked at is what is the risk to the participant, the family, and it gets assessed on all of those circumstances to be escalated. But definitely, look, if there's problems with your local area coordinator, send them through, we can have a discussion. I have really good relationships with the managers at St Vincent's and Uniting, so we can support that and get that sorted out for you. I can also have a look at where that's at as well. But yeah, look, you know, I don't think I haven't heard anything that I haven't heard before. I haven't heard anything extremely frightening or drastic either, which is also encouraging because I have heard some really drastic things in the past. We are getting there, and it's around trying to make it right so it works for our participants. We are an ongoing change organisation. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been with the agency since 2016, so in 3 years I've fully done a 720 and you know, we're rolling through more change again, and we will continually do that until we can actually make the scheme it's supposed to be for our participants. And the only way we can do that is through consultation, and we will continue to do that ongoingly as well.
Can I just say one more thing? I've got to admit that since the NDIS, there's certain things that have definitely improved, like the extra things he can access with as far as exercise physiology and stuff like that he gets in the home. That's been a big plus because he didn't have that before. But to me, it's the equipment, it's the essential stuff that worked before, that, you know, you had to go through things, but it worked, it was all there. That's what we have to fight for.
Yeah.
That's the trouble we're having, that's what we're having trouble with, not the,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
some of it's
Look,
worked really, really well.
yeah, look, that's you know, I suppose encouraging in a way, because I've met numerous amounts of people that Enable never worked for them. They never got equipment. They were told, you've got one, and you know, like my girlfriend has a prosthetic leg, and she needed to go in for the ankle joint repair, and it had to go into Enable for 8 weeks, and she was 8 weeks without a leg. They refused to give her a wet leg because they said we've already funded one leg. So now under the NDIS, she has a wet leg. This is the first time in her life, she's 62 years old, that she's actually gone on an overseas holiday, because for her to even travel or go anywhere in Australia, interstate, she would have to pack her own shower chair. She would also then have to ring around and make sure that the shower was big enough, that it had a hand shower, that she could fit a chair in, that she could, and she said by the time she did that, it was exhausting. She now has a wet leg that she can put in a suitcase, that she can take overseas. She can shower in any shower now. She's fully independent. It means that she can do her job more efficiently. She's an OT and works for Lifetime Care and Support, so she does all of those functional assessments for people who've had catastrophic motor vehicle accidents, and it means that now she can actually do that more independently and more speedily, because we've funded her a new prosthetic leg, a day leg and a wet leg. And it also means now that she can do some swimming and some exercise.
You were
so
saying
it's just,
that she was absolutely gobsmacked because she said, oh my God, I showered standing up.
That's right. Her comment to me was, she said, and we had a joke, she said, I think I need an OT to come and teach me how to shower standing up, because I've never showered standing up my whole life. So she's never, and she said, and we'd have this joke, she goes, I'm worried about dropping the soap. So, do you know what I mean? So, but for me, it's like, that's just a normal, and she's more independent. She's able to, and they're in Canada at the moment, her and her husband. And for me, like, for us to be, and that's really insignificant, the cost of that wet leg, like it's really insignificant with what it's been able to provide. So, so that's the other thing. One other, I'll use an example so that you understand about access. So this access, I work with a colleague who has been diagnosed with MS. MS is a condition that would meet eligibility, but right now her disability of MS is maintained with medication. She has no other support requirements that she needs. So right now, if she tested her eligibility for the NDIS, she would be denied access because there's no functional impact. But as her disease progresses, and she will require mobility aids, she will require continence aids, she may require car modifications, she may require, in-home assistance and support in the community as she ages and her disease progresses. That is when she should be testing eligibility for the scheme, when there is a functional impact that can be described and, understandably significant for her to function independently in that ordinary day life.
But we would like to avoid getting to that point. I would like intervention early.
You need it well before.
So Section 25 of our Act does talk about early intervention. However, it is one component of our Act that isn't necessarily utilised enough, and that's a component of the review as well. So the agency and the government are looking at Section 25 because typically, if someone meets eligibility under Section 25 of the Act, it may only be for a period of up to 2 years. So, and then they may then not be an ongoing participant of the scheme. So it's talking about and looking at how Section 25 of our Act can be utilised to support people to reduce ongoing scheme accessibility and not require ongoing scheme accessibility, or defer ongoing scheme accessibility moving forward. So they're all really important things that we need to hear about as well.
So you don't have to be under 6 to access early intervention?
No.
It's actually the classification of the therapy type you're getting to not be on it for long term.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yeah, so early childhood early intervention for the 0 to 6 cohort is very different to Section 25 early intervention as a component of the Act.
Sorry.
I had it a moment ago. So in terms of what we need to do and what we, you know, in terms of plan reviews and getting another one and needing another report and go to this person, get that report and have that printed up and then go back to the lab and do this. It's exhausting. Oh my goodness. It's
So,
exhausting. And I get that you need checks and balances, but it's an exhausting thing for all for the end result to be nothing's changed. And even though our child is 11, nothing's changed. She still has OI. It still fluctuates wildly. She's still sometimes in a wheelchair, sometimes she's not. Most of the time she needs some hydrotherapy, blah, blah, blah. She always needs orthotics. She always needs a break box so that we can deal with stuff as it happens before we get medical. Nothing's changed, and we're asking for the same things every year, and we're having to go back and then we're having to get reports to prove that nothing's changed, and it costs the system money
to do that.
Yeah,
Look,
we're trying really hard not to charge the system money, but we have to in order to prove
Look,
that nothing's changed.
and just from being here today, I truly believe that we need some, some guidelines around that and some greater understanding for planning to also support you guys and your people that you're supporting. So if you can please email me all those sorts of things, because what the agency has done, we have developed for planners the top 15 disabilities within the scheme. We have some guidelines around the types of support, those sorts of things, to actually, make it more consistent and more, I suppose, easier for people to understand what those disability requirements are. So, considering the complexities of OI, I think that that's probably something the agency needs to work towards as well. And like I said, with that detail of your experience, I can take that back to the agency so that we can have some more consistent planning support documents for planners there.
The problem we have is we have internationally renowned pediatrician geneticist who has helped us for 40 years, over 40 years. He has written in conjunction with the society, and our letters were ignored.
I presented 2 days, like the other evening. So we registered 520 people with OI in New South Wales alone over the period 1980 to 2012.
Yep.
So there's about 2,000 people with OI. This is a very big group, and sitting next to you is Bernadette. You would pass by her in the street, okay? Julie you might recognise, but I've known her since she's a little girl. And I wouldn't pass by her in the street, except she was needing problems with her legs being bowed. So this is an evolving sort of disorder, but also there's lots of people who have chronic pain, they have fatigue, and orthotics is a big picture item. Thank God for 3D printing.
Yep.
Maybe we here will be able to get custom-made orthoses at a much cheaper cost, and the price will come down. And we can change them every year or two as the kids grow.
So that, my understanding is that will be something that should be incorporated into the plans moving forward.
But it seemed to me that this was a unique opportunity, and 2.5 years ago we wrote and said, hey, whoever helped, NDIA put this thing together was really absolutely stupid. I mean, here I am the person who put those numbers on everything, and we knew immediately they were just way off.
Yeah.
And 40 years after we made up those numbers, it's all changed. Like somebody's going to write to you and say, I've got OI type 19 or OI type 12, and although I don't agree with all these numbers, it's not going to help if we don't have an understanding. The moment you see OI, these are walking, talking, disabled people. Not those perinatally lethal OI type 2s that's written into the legislation.
Sorry, can I just add, the list has been updated, so it no longer says type 2, it actually says severe. So list A has OI severe, list B has, which is the functional impact scenario, doesn't list osteogenesis imperfecta, and that's where I feel that my family fell off. My daughter transitioned from early intervention to permanent disability and got kicked off the scheme. And that's where I feel that we fell off the radar, because it's not in black and white that we can reference and prove my daughter is on this list?
So and it's not necessary. So the lists are a guide. They were developed in consultation with the states and territories. Do you know what I mean? So and I wasn't around. Yeah, Yep.
They should be going to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we tried.
You see OI, it doesn't matter what, the type of right? That's it, that's permanent.
Yes. No, that's right. So OI is a permanent disability,
And
but
it's whether it's type 1.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. OI is a permanent disability. So once we've got a disability,
Impact really.
that's right. So we know that that's a disability that will meet requirements. But what we need to understand is the functional impact. So we need to. It does it, and it also affects everyone a little bit differently. So yeah. So I think that.
That's something though that.
Not to just
We
secure.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, no. Look, I understand, and
We're different, obviously.
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
as a first point of sight, when they see OI, it doesn't matter what they ask for after the plan. The general guideline should be, once you've got OI, that's it.
it's permanent. Yep, and it's lifelong.
Whatever
Yep.
they ask for according to their types and all that, that should be,
Yep.
And that is the
to do
key
with
word.
them getting
Yeah.
on board straight away and getting supported.
And in the
You need to
next
have
second,
work.
it could have significant impact on your life.
Yes. Yep.
That's right. Okay.
Well-
Did you have
No, I
something
just
else
wanted to
to
say thank you to everyone.
Yes. And thank you.
No.
Thank you very much.